And on the back side of the body, the shoulder blades and the top trapezius go downward. And there should be a feeling of release, more than just not hiking up the shoulder blades. There should be a genuine and constant feeling of release that takes the top trapezius downward. And to help the lift of the chest, the two shoulder blades press forward into the chest in the direction of the lungs. And sometimes we use the phrase that you should feel your chest spreading, which at first I was confused in thinking that I would feel a stretch in the muscles that act on the upper arm, like the pectoral muscles, the major chest muscles. But when we often say, my understanding's clarified a little bit, that we're actually not only going for that, which may happen or may not happen in some poses, but when we say the chest should spread and the chest should stretch, we're often referring to the sternum bone and the connections between the ribs spreading and stretching. So if you truly lift your chest and truly take the shoulder blades strongly down the back, you might start to feel this spreading quality of the topmost ribs and the collarbones where they connect to the sternum bone. And then lift from the pubis to the chest. As you lift from the pubis, the base of the pelvis, to the chest, you should feel that the abdomen becomes longer. Lift along that middle line of the abdomen to the chest. And you have to be very cautious that lifting the abdomen doesn't throw the lumbar vertebrae forward toward the abdomen. The abdomen should elongate not only in the front abdominal cavity, but also in the back, so that the territory from the back waistband to the beginning of the back ribs also lengthens. So really the back of the body has kind of a junction point. From the waist up to the ribs, it lifts upward. But from the top shoulders down to that same place of the beginning of the ribs, it pulls downward. So like the upper back skin is pulling down, the lower back skin is ascending up. And you have to be very concentrated to blend those two actions together, because if you overdo one of them, the tendency is that something else in the back or the chest will go wrong. If you overdo the lower back lifting up and don't focus on the upper back drawing down, the shoulders will tend to hike up and the back may round. If you overdo the upper back and don't watch the lower back, the lumbar will be thrown forward, and that could further exaggerate different lower back issues, which could be common in these times where we're quarantined and sitting a lot. So with that in mind, we're going to just continue on to the first pose of the class, the first formal pose, which is Adho Mukha Virasana, forward-facing hero pose. You will take your bolster or several blankets and place them in front of you on the mat, and you'll come onto your hands and knees. A substitution for this bolster could be two blocks, one of which would support the sternum bone, the other block would support the top of the head. If you're using a bolster, you'll place a blanket across the top of the bolster. You will kneel with the bolster just between your thighs. Your feet will be together, but your thighs, the knee area of your thigh, will be hip distance apart so that the end of the bolster fits between the knees. And you'll take another blanket for between the buttocks and the heels. The blanket for buttocks, heels is optional if your butt comes away. Now take the arms forward, take the chest down to the bolster, take the forehead down to the blanket. Your arms should fully extend, so the elbows are straight. Your chest should be supported and your head should be slightly higher than your chest. If you are using blocks, you might use the same setting of the blocks, but still placing a small blanket on top of the head block to keep the head slightly elevated. Now here, to elongate the lumbar, take the lower back from the first ribs, or I should say actually the last ribs, to the waistline, down towards the heels. If you press into your hands the same way you would press for downward facing dog, that hand pressure will help ascend, or rather descend, the lumbar spine. Simultaneously press the chest down and the shoulder blades forward into the chest. The head rests, the eyes rest. The hands remain active because the hands help you elongate the lumbar. So it's not a resting pose, although it has a restful effect on the nervous system. It is not an effortless pose. Now, to further refine this, you're actually going to come out of the pose about 10 to 20%. You're just going to lift your butt up and walk your hands forward about 3 to 4 inches. Your butt will be away from your heels. Extend your arms forward, those 3 to 4 inches, so you walk the hands out, straighten the elbows, and now pull the shoulder blades down the back and strongly sit the buttock down onto the heels without changing where the hands are. And there should register some elongation in the back, whether that be the lower back, the middle back. The shoulders may elevate toward the ears slightly, but prevent the entirety of the added extension from happening in the shoulders. Seek to have the shoulders elevate to a minimum so that somewhere else in your back achieves that elongation. Continue to take the top of your buttock down towards your heels. And then sit up, walk the hands in toward the knees, use the pressure of the hands to help you come up. Remove your bolster from in front of you. Remove the blanket from behind you. Come onto your hands and knees, preparing for Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Have your index fingers parallel to each other. The remaining 3 digits spread wide. Don't overstretch the thumbs, but make sure the index fingers are parallel. Have the elbows straight and the biceps turning forward. Curl the toes under, lift the knees away from the floor, and before you reach your maximum extension, just quickly glance at your toes. See that your second toes are parallel to each other, and the feet are as wide apart from each other as your hands are apart from each other. And then take the heels back and down, fully extend the legs, fully extend the arms so that the legs are straight, the elbow joints are straight. Now there is a line of extension in your upper arms, and you have to exaggerate that line. The line begins from the thumb and index finger side of the hand. So that's your base. Press those 2 points, thumb and index finger side of the hand down. That's the beginning of the line. Trace that line, mentally trace that line from that area up through the inner arm, inner forearm, inner bicep to the inner shoulder. And your observation should show that that line of the inner arm is shorter than the outer arm, from the outer shoulder to the pinky finger side of the hand. Extend that inner line. You have to turn your biceps up and your shoulders from the inside out to make that inner arm as long as the outer arm. So press the thumb and the index finger down. Extend that inner arm. And that extension should help give extra space to take the thighs and hips back
once again elongating the back. Today's class has a heavy emphasis on forward extensions, and so we have to keep the vertical extension of the spine as we extend forward. Take the thighs back, hips back, sacrum back, and all of those backward actions come from the pressure in the hands, pressing down thumb side, extending up through the shoulders. Inner arm longer. Now for Uttanasana, walk your hands or walk your feet forward to your hands. Have your feet hips width apart. Seek here to place your hands on the floor. If you have to cup shape the hands to get the hands on the floor, that is fine. Press the inner and outer knees back symmetrically, and we're starting out in Uttanasana forward extension with really what we would call the upward facing or concave back version of the pose before going into the full pose. So take the band of the middle of the back and what I'll call the end of the lumbar, so those first or the last few ribs, all the way up to where we would call the bra line. Take that 4-ish inches forward. And you should feel that the beginning of your rib cage on the front of the body moves away from your thigh muscles. So put your attention right on that front band of the ribs, which are the last ribs on the front, the floating ribs on the front, the false ribs on the sides of the body, and move those ribs away from your thighs. And you should feel that that correlates to that middle back territory moving forward, as in toward the floor that you're facing. The more you achieve that, or the more you fight for that length in the front body through the support of the back body, you'll certainly feel the back of the legs elongating more and more. And then for the full pose, take your hands close to the sides of your feet and keep that abdomen extending, those ribs extending away from your thighs. Try to move your ribs over your knees as you extend the chest forward and release the head down. The head is simply going to hang. The hands have to be on something. So if they are on blocks, that's fine. It would be better to put them on blocks than to hold onto your legs. Now move your thighs back and move your front ribs away from your thighs, as if the whole rib cage was extending toward the toes. And don't worry so much about the back ribs. Focus your attention on your front ribs, especially the lower part of your front rib cage. Extend that out of your abdomen towards your toes. Release the head, let the eyes rest, the jaw to rest. And then to come out, take the hands to the hips, point the elbows up, inhale to come up. Now you're going to step your feet wide for Parsvottanasana, side forward extension. And I'm going to do this facing away from the camera so that you can see how I place my arms. We're going to take the pose using the bind behind the body, which involves taking the hands into Paschima Namaskarasana, prayer pose behind the body. So you'll take the hands together, palms down at first, fingers down at first, and then turn the palms and the fingers up, like so. You keep going up and up with the fingers, and you seek to bring the pinky finger almost to the base where the shoulder blades begin, at the lower crest, the lower tip of the shoulder blades.
Now, the tendency here is if you have a tighter shoulder, that shoulder will tend to hike up toward that ear. Take both shoulders, but especially attentive to that problematic shoulder, down the back, and press the backs of your hands into the back of the body to lift the chest. Now, if this is too intense for you, there are several other variations. One is that you would hold the elbows. This would be Paschimottanasana Hastasana, hands bound behind the body. And then the further refined, or the further easier one, if you will, is the hands holding the opposite wrist. So in some way or another, you have the hands behind the body. And regardless of which hands you're using, you still take the shoulder blades down the back. Turn the feet to the right, turn the left toes in, turn the right foot out 90 degrees. Turn the hips and the chest around to face the right leg. And extend over the right leg. Continuously pull the right outer hip back as you extend the chest forward over the right leg. Press back your left heel the entire time. Now, go to your back. That middle band of your back where your hands are. Press your hands into your back, pull your shoulders down your back, and extend your ribs over your leg. Look to that lower band of the ribs. Upper, like kind of the stomach territory. Lift those ribs and extend the chest over the leg. Very commonly, the hips sway out to the right. So draw the hips under the body, pull the right hip back, press the left hip forward, extend the chest over the right leg. Better than the chest, extend the underneath the ribs over the right leg, and then press back the left heel, inhale to come up. Turn the feet to the opposite side. I didn't say this on the first side, I apologize for this, that you have to make sure that your back foot heel, now your right heel, turns in 45 degrees. Otherwise, it will be nearly impossible, or more effort than it needs to be, to get your hips to level. Level as in equidistant from the floor, but also equidistant from the wall that you're facing now that you face out over the left leg. Press the arms forward so that not only your elbow presses forward, but your forearm and outer wrist press forward into your back. Pull your left hip back, right hip forward as you extend over that left leg. The stability of the pose comes very much from your back leg, your back foot. Straighten the right leg, press the right heel, and now you go with your attention to your middle back and extend the back ribs forward. The front ribs, extend them, make the stomach and abdomen longer. Not by hardening or gripping, but by lifting the ribs off of the stomach and intestinal territory. Pull the left hip back, press the right hip forward, and extend over the leg. Inhale to come up, press the rear heel, turn the feet, step the feet together, and release the arms. Don't shake the hands. There may be an urge to do that here. Just extend the arms. Extend the wrists so that the wrist, there's like 180 degree, a straight line from the wrist to the fingers. Okay. Next pose is Prasarita Padottanasana. Step the feet wide for wide-legged forward extension. Visually check that your outer edge of your foot is parallel with the outer edge of your mat. Go to that same territory in the middle of the body. So middle back, front ribs. And if you're confused what I'm talking about is in front ribs,
I'm pointing to them here. This area right here should be long when you go into forward extensions.
If it shrinks or collapses, your back ribs will poke out, and it further exacerbates that hunchback's kind of too much cervical curvature, too much thoracic kyphotic back that we're trying to correct with our poses. Lift that territory up from the front pubis to those front ribs, make that longer, shoulders down the back. Now keep the knees straight as you hinge at the hips and extend forward. Place the hands on the floor. Your hands should be placed right underneath your shoulders. And then for the intents and purposes of what we're doing today, have the hands about 2 inches further out to the sides. So you have the hands wider than the shoulders. Now with your hands, pull the front part of your mat where your hands are, pull the floor under your hands towards your feet. Press your thighs and your hips back, pull the floor toward the feet, and take the middle band of the back forward. You should feel that it's very easy here, or easier, to get that abdomen to elongate, those ribs to elongate. Keep that elongation. Extend the abdomen, extend those front ribs forward as if they were going to go through your arms. And then walk the hands back. Place the hands in line with the feet, heels of the hands to the arch of the foot, index fingers parallel. Bend your elbows straight back and place your head on the floor. Now, if you get that middle abdomen to elongate and those ribs to lift, you will feel that that naturally takes your hips up, and you will feel the elongation of the back of the thighs even more. The head should be supported, so if you're stiff and you can't get down to the ground, you should be using a blanket or a block underneath your head. Press the elbows straight back to ensure that the elbows do not flare out to the sides. The elbows should be shoulder distance, the hands should be shoulder distance. Rest your brain on the floor. And then straighten the elbows, lift the head, look up, walk the hands forward. Lift the chest, lift that middle abdomen, back ribs in, take the hands to the hips, inhale to come up, and then walk the feet back together. Now our next pose is Salamba Shirshasana 1, supported headstand 1. The tutorial video online shows several approaches to doing this. I know some of you have issues with going upside down. The 2-chair option may be a good fit for you, Susan Farron. Sorry to have to use your name, but otherwise you can do headstand middle of the room or the headstand at the wall. I have a second sticky mat here that I folded twice to make a 4-layer sticky mat. This will be your standard padding. If you are, for whatever reason, unable to go upside down, maybe it's for whatever reason, an alternative pose is simply to sit in Virasana on a brick, or you would do another option if you are going upside down, but you don't have, if you need that relief to not be holding yourself, if that's too much pressure in your brain, using the 2-chair option, which we've done in class many times, is also available. Now, if you're doing the classical headstand where you're interlacing your fingers, you could be doing this against the wall, and there's no shame in doing this against the wall. I'm going to give instructions for if you're interlacing your fingers. So take the hands, interlace the fingers all the way to the webbing of the fingers, place the outer wrist on the ground, have your elbows under your shoulders,
and move the upper back territory between the shoulder blades forward. If you're using the 2-chair version, you're taking the shoulders all the way to the wall. The chairs go flush to the wall. The chairs go on a sticky mat. There's padding on the chairs, either cushioning or upholstery, plus maybe blankets. You should not feel any strain on your shoulders when you go up. Now, if you're using the traditional base, either freestanding or at the wall, now place the head. When you place the head, you should be slightly toward the forehead side of the head. When you go up into the pose, you will roll into the correct position onto the middle of the skull. Then lift the knees away from the ground, walk the feet in, press the outer wrists and inner elbows down, strongly lift the shoulder blades up away from the floor. You can either go up with one leg at a time or both knees with a little hop, and extend the legs up. If you're going up on the 2-chair setup, then you can either extend one leg at a time or again try the hop. Now, if you come to a pose, like if you are sort of headstand cautious, and you come up into headstand and find that for you today, this is a little bit too much pressure in the head, an obvious solution is just to take an alternative pose. So that could be downward facing dog with the head supported, or the same as the previous pose, Prasarita Padottanasana, with the head down. Now everybody, focus on the back. Regardless of which version of headstand you're in, take the feet about 3 to 5 inches apart. And now take the tailbone up. Take the tailbone straight up so that you feel that your lumbar becomes longer. Your knees are straight, your thighs and feet are separated a couple inches apart, not too wide, but now take that tailbone straight up. Middle of the buttock goes in and forward toward the wall or the area that your eyes are gazing at. Your tailbone and goes straight up as if your butt was going to go up through your feet. And it should be very obvious that that correlates to your lower back becoming longer. Then join the feet back together, turning the thighs in, and don't lose that buttock going forward. Take your thighs back, your tailbone up. If you're doing this at the wall, it's very easy to press the heels into the wall and slam your buttock forward. Don't do that. Take the tailbone up more than just pushing your hips away from the wall. It will be better if you're at the wall to try to move the feet away from the wall to experience this. The wall is there for your support. So take the tailbone up, sacrum and middle buttocks forward, turn the thighs in and press them back. Now we're not going to be here for too long. If you do this later on in the day, you would stay for longer, 5 to 10 minutes. For right now, we're moving on. Slowly come out, extend the legs down toward the floor, either one leg or both legs at the same time. Once you come down from whichever version of headstand you're in, you will rest your head in some way or another. So if you're at the wall, you'll kneel or shuffle your legs back away from the wall so that you can fully extend your arms. This is the same pose that we started with, Adho Mukha Virasana. Release your head forward, release your chest forward, fully extend your arms. And if you're using the chairs, it's nice to shuffle out of the chairs and do this pose, but it's also fine to cross the arms and rest the head between the arms. Walk the hands in toward the knees, come up to seated. And we are moving right along to shoulder stand. So for this pose, I am going to show the chair shoulder stand. We're not taking any variations in this pose, so there will be no differing instructions if you're taking chair versus regular shoulder stand. If you're taking regular shoulder stand, you would do that classic setup of taking the 3 to 4 blankets, and all blankets are different sizes and thicknesses, so you need to discriminate what the correct height is for your body, for the size of your neck. The general rule of thumb is it should be at least 3 inches of support, 2 to 3 inches of support. Really, 3 is better. And if you need more than 5 inches of support, there should be some reason. There should be some like cervical issue that you're specifically working on with a higher setup, which I don't think anybody here at least would be. So for chair shoulder stand, I'm going to place the bolster and go ahead up. If you know the setup, I've just simply, I hope this is able to be seen. We did a tutorial video on this that you could back reference if you're confused at this moment. But I've placed a blanket over the back of the chair so that I have padding for behind my calves or knees. I have some padding on the chair that's going to support my sacrum. If you are taller, this padding, like Wally, you might use extra padding, or you might just do regular shoulder stand. And then if you're shorter, you would add additional padding on top of your bolster. If you're using chair shoulder stand and you have a lot of padding under your shoulders, and because of that padding, your head hangs and your head doesn't make it to the ground, that's fine. It's okay to have the head hanging in this pose as long as the shoulders are very well supported. So now to go into the pose, you'll sit off to one side, kick the legs up and over the chair, the back rest of the chair. And you'll lie back. Seek to have the tops of your shoulders supported on either blankets or a bolster. You need something there. It can't be at the same. Your shoulders should definitely be, whatever version of shoulder stand you're in, it should always be that the shoulders are at least that 2.5 to 3 inches higher than the head. And that preserves the cervical curvature. So now, if you're in the chair shoulder stand, you hold on to either the sides of the chair or thread your arms through the front part of the chair to hold the back part of the chair. If you're in classical shoulder stand, you ensure that your hands are low toward the shoulder blades and that the cup shape of your hand scoops as much of your back up as possible so that your hands support the area of that middle back, that area that we were working on with the class. Now, if you're in the chair shoulder stand, put your attention on that middle back area. Again, if you're in normal shoulder stand, go up whenever you're ready, extend both legs. Everybody extend the legs fully, reach out through the heels, turn the thighs in and straighten the knees. And now everybody, every version of shoulder stand, put your attention on that middle back territory from the upper lumbar, the end of the rib cage, to the beginning of the shoulder blades, and press that forward toward the front part of the rib cage. And you should feel your chest expanding and that upper abdomen, floating rib area also expanding and elongating. Now take the tailbone upward, tailbone toward the ceiling, and also as if it was going up, the middle sacrum was going towards the feet. Perhaps a better instruction is to take the back waistband, the back pant line, toward the feet so that your lumbar elongates. Every version of shoulder stand, all of you, take the feet hip distance apart, turn the thighs in. If you're in chair shoulder stand, you have the feet on the chair. or the legs, or rather the legs on the chair, the calves on the chair, and turn the thighs in, take the tailbone up. Tailbone up as if it was going to go through the thighs, and then join the legs back together. Keep turning the thighs in. And now you should feel that your sacrum is supported on the chair, if you're in the chair, and it's lighter on the chair. Your butt isn't hanging onto the chair. Your butt is very light on the chair. You may even feel elongation across the front pelvic muscles, the front pelvic organs. And then to release this pose, you're going to take, if you're in full shoulder stand, you'll come down to Halasana, remove a belt if you're using the belts, extend the arms overhead and roll out. If you're on the chair, you'll put your feet on the backrest of the chair, hold the chair, and slide backwards, keeping the chair stationary to rest the buttock down onto the bolster. And once you're out of full or chair shoulder stand, rest on the floor for a moment. Let the nerves and the brain settle. Let the shoulders settle. And take several breaths and observe what's going on in your body before we move on to the next thing. And now bend your knees into your chest, turn to the side, roll off of all of your props. Clear your mat of props. Have your blankets handy. So now we're moving on in this sequence to, this is on the back of the page, and this will be a sequence of forward extensions and seated postures. To be prepared ahead of time, take one of your blankets folded in half and place one of your blankets behind you on your mat. You could also take a second blanket or second towel and have it folded nearby in case you need a second blanket, and we'll get to when you might need a second blanket later on. Now for this first pose, for this first series of poses, I'm going to start off seated like this, but I'm going to change my orientation in a moment. So the first pose is the staff pose, Dandasana, and you will sit on a blanket, and you'll place your hands next to you on the floor, and you take your attention to that same band of your back, front, it's really the same band of your torso. So your back, lowermost ribs to the bra line, feel those vertebrae extend away from each other. And at the front plane of the body, feel the front upper abdomen, floating rib territory, expand up as if it moves up and out of your stomach, up and out of your front pelvis. Push the chest forward, take the arms and shoulders back. And once again, seek to extend that same band, that lower floating rib area, forward. The lower back works very strongly in this pose, so it is a lower back arch, but it's also an upper back arch. So move the shoulder blades forward. Make sure your legs are doing good things. Turn the thighs in, so you press the inner knees down, extend through the heels, join the inner edges of the feet together. Now for seated angle pose, Upavishta Konasana, I'm just going to change my orientation. You can remain seated how you are. You have your feet and together in Dandasana for seated angle Upavishta Konasana. You'll separate the feet wide apart. So this angle has to be at least 90 degrees, but it shouldn't be more than about 150 degrees. So we're definitely not going as far out as humanly possible, but for most of us, going as far out as possible is still within the range of where this pose, where the feet and the legs should be. If you're extremely mobile in the inner groins and the inner hips, you may need to hold yourself back from going as deep as possible into this pose. Now, once you separate the feet, there comes a point where you feel that you can no longer get your feet any wider by just kind of muscling your way out to the side. Now you're going to come off of your blanket and go forward. You're going to take your hands down next to you, lift your butt away from the support, and you're going to slide each foot out and back as you scoot the buttock forward. So the butt scoots forward, the feet scoot out and back. You're now off of your blanket. If here you feel that your knees bend, if the knees cannot help but bend, or if you cannot sit straight on your sitting bones, if you feel that if you release your hands or take any weight off of your hands, that you immediately slump back and your abdomen collapses and your chest collapses, you can't sit up straight, then you would need to use the blanket or the support under the buttock. We're going to do the scoot one more time. So use your hands, pick yourself up, slide your feet a little bit forward and out to the sides. Now for Dandasana, or for Padangusta Upavishta Konasana, you're going to extend forward, lift the chest, and you're going to hook a thumb and index finger around, or rather you're taking the Padangusta grip, which I hope you can see here on this side. You're taking the index and middle finger and the thumb, and you're using that to hook around each toe. If this is going to destroy you, if this is way too intense for you, then you would use two belts or two straps, two whatevers, two of the same thing, to hold on to the feet. Your elbows should be straight and your legs should be straight. Now, once again, you find here that as you go forward and hold the feet, that abdomen naturally shrinks. The upper back bows out. Extend the abdomen, lift the front ribs out of your stomach, out of your kind of intestinal area, make space for the abdominal organs, and elongate the front of the body. Take the chest forward and extend the abdomen forward. Now, as you do this, it's easy to have the feet and the thighs roll in. When you're sitting straight, it's easy to have the feet and the thighs roll out. Now your weight is forward. Now take the back of your buttock, or the back under buttock, and press it down. Press the backs of the thighs and the outer knee down. Outer knee presses down, buttock presses down, but then the abdomen and the chest extend forward. You have to blend those two actions together. And then sit up, release the feet, come back up to seated, sitting straight. And now just have your hands on your shins near your knees, sitting tall. It tends to be a little easier to sit upright after you do the forward extension version of this pose. So now we're going to do the twist. So you're going to take we're going to twist to the right first. So you're going to take your left hand in front of you. Your right hand will go out to the side or out behind your right leg. The chest lifts, particularly middle abdomen area lifts, and turn your sternum bone around to face the middle of the sternum bone around the right leg. This is Parsva Upavishta Konasana. Now, when you turn around to face that right leg, your left thigh, make sure it does not roll in too much. Naturally, the left thigh will get a little bit lighter on the ground.
but make sure it doesn't leave the ground. Press the left outer knee down. Keep both of your feet active. So your feet remain in dorsiflexion. You keep extending out through each heel. Then come back to center, inhale back to the middle. Take the right hand in front, take the left hand behind. Lift the middle abdomen area up, middle back area up, and turn the chest around the left leg. You should be turning until you feel that middle sternum bone is aiming right over the middle line of the leg. And then inhale back to center. Now we're going to take the more kind of the forward fold version of, or the kind of the more complete version of Parsva Upavishta Konasana. You're going to take the right hand to the left hand in front, the right hand behind, turn the chest around the right leg, and you're going to lift the right arm up, extend over the right leg, and now hold the outer right foot with the left hand. If you can't get to the foot, you can use the blanket, or rather, if you can't get to the foot, you can use the strap. So I'm holding, my left hand is holding the pinky toe side of my right foot. I place my right hand next to my thigh. So my right hand's about 6 inches out to the side, but it's right next to the middle of the thigh. You don't even need me to tell you that your right side is way shorter than your left. Press down the right hand, descend the left side of the back, and lift from your right hip through the right side of the body. Seek for the right side to become more equal to the left. Extend the chest toward the foot. Now you have that extra refinement of it's not just the sternum bone, but it's actually the lower ribs and the stomach territory that's extending. Now to complete the pose, take your hands around your foot. You don't cross the arms. The left hand will go to the inside of the right foot now. The right hand will hold the outside of the right foot. Lift the abdomen and the chest. Take the left side down as you extend through the right side. And then to release the foot, come back to the center. Take the right hand in the middle in front of you, take the left hand behind. Lift from the abdomen to the chest. Turn the chest around to face the left leg. Extend up the right arm and extend over with the right arm to hold the outside of the left foot with the right arm. Now, I didn't say this on the other side, but yes, your right leg will get a little lighter on the ground. Like your right sitting bone, yes, it will be lighter on the ground, but it shouldn't just raise up without any thought about it. Keep pressing that right leg down, but understand that it will never have the same weight as the left leg in this pose. So take your left hand next to you, next to the left thigh, push down with the left hand and descend the right side of the body as you lift and extend up through the left side of the body. Shoulders down the back, lift the abdomen and the chest. Lift the abdomen and the chest. Now press back into the right leg, keep that right leg down, and still attempt to press the right sitting bone down. And then take the hands around the foot. Take the right hand to the outside left foot, left hand to the inside foot, or vice versa, I think. You shouldn't be crossing your arms. And then turn the chest around the left leg, extend the abdomen and the chest toward the left toes. So we're not fully completing the pose here. We are still staying in this, like what we would call the upward facing version of the pose. And then to release the foot, come back to center. So now we're gonna we're completing the Upavishta Konasana cycle, seated angle. You're going to hold your outer knees, bend up your knees, and use your hands to help push your legs back together, back to Dandasana. Now you're going to fully extend your legs, and you're going to sit with your feet hips width apart. There's going to be a little bit of space between your feet, about 4 to 5 inches. And here, pull the flesh of the buttock back and out. Once again, if you feel that you are slumping back and you can't sit straight, one option is to further pull the flesh of the buttocks back and out so that you ensure that you're more on your sitting bones. The other correction or the prop adjustment is that you would sit up on a blanket. That can just give you a little bit of extra lift. Now press your thighs down, press your inner knees down. Press your legs down by really pressing the middle of your hamstring down, the belly of the hamstring. It's easy to slam the knees down, and when the knees slam down, the heels become lighter on the floor. They may even lift away from the floor. But if you press the belly of the hamstring, the middle of the hamstring down, you will feel the whole back leg presses down. Now take your hands next to you, lift your chest up. Middle abdomen area lifts up. We're going for Paschimottanasana, seated forward extension. Extend the arms overhead, Urdhva Hasta with the arms. Lift that abdomen rib cage area. Lift that up. Keep that long as you extend forward and hold on to the outer edges of your feet. With the feet wider like this, because this is not the classical pose. The classical pose is that your feet are together, but with the feet wider, you have additional space to extend your chest because you're not trying to push your chest through these narrow arms. So here, take the attention to that same area, that middle abdominal area, and extend it. Make more space in the middle of the abdomen. Don't concern yourself with going forward or putting your head down. Make your abdomen as long as possible. Even further, make the abdomen longer and pull your feet with your hands. Pull back on the outer edges of your feet with your hands, like you're trying to pull your chest through your arms. Keep your butt descending and keep your middle thighs, the belly of the hamstring, pressing down. And then to release the feet, come back up to seated. And now you will take some support. So now I'm going to take 2 blankets and I'm going to sit on 2 blankets or a bolster. Bolster would work very well as well. I sit up on 2 blankets. The next pose is Baddha Konasana, bound angle. So I have my feet in front of me in Dandasana. I take now my inner knees. I bend my knees out to the sides. I use my hands to support my inner knees, and I separate my knees out to the side. I bring the soles of the feet together and close to the perineum. Now, I take time to align my 2 big toe ball mounds of my feet together, my big toes together, my inner heels together, and I get my feet as close to the base of my spine, the perineum, as possible. And then I take my hands next to me and I'm putting my hands on the floor, or if you're on a pretty high support, like if you're on a big bolster, you may need to take your hands onto blocks. And now you press your feet together and press your knees down and back. You are extending or tightening from the outer knee, drawing the outer knee toward the outer hip. And this pose comes much more readily when the feet press together strongly. If the feet go limp, the tendency is that you're actually hardening and gripping in your thighs and groins to make the legs go down. If you press your feet together, you're still hardening the outer leg or gripping in the outer hip, but the inner, the groin, can release. So now we're going to transition from this pose into Janu Shirshasana. We're going to take the right leg forward first. I'm going to be your mirror. So now your left foot is going to peel away from your right and flatten onto the floor. So the feet were previously, like the sole of the foot was perpendicular to the floor in Baddha Konasana. Now you're placing the top of the left foot on the floor and then bring the left heel in a little closer to the left groin. So your left heel goes to your left groin, the left top of the foot is on the floor, you extend the right leg in front of you. Janu Shirshasana is head of the knee pose. So now your right leg is in front of you, just like in Dandasana or Paschimottanasana. Now you're going to take your right foot just a few inches out to the right. When you look down, you should completely be able to see the sole of your left foot. The left foot should not be underneath the right thigh at all. You should be able to see the pinky toe and the outer edge of the foot, top of the foot down. Now press your knee down and back. That same action of pulling from your outer knee to your outer hip on your left leg brings the left knee down. It does not need to get all the way to the floor, but you don't just be idle with it. Press the knee back and down. Now take your hands to the floor, turn the chest around to face the right leg. It's not much of a turn. And then extend the arms up, extend over the right leg, hold on to the foot. Now we're going to do basically the same thing we did in Upavishta Konasana, Parsva Upavishta Konasana. So you're going to take your left hand to the outside of your right foot. You're going to take your right hand next to your right leg. You're going to push down with that hand and you're going to extend the right side as long as the left. You should notice that the sensation or the feeling of the sides of the body is similar to Parsva Upavishta Konasana. The left side is a little longer, the right side naturally would shrink. So press the right hand down, extend through the right side. Lift that middle abdominal territory toward the foot, and then take the hands around the left foot, or the right foot rather. Now there's a lot of forward toward the right foot consciousness here. And you've got to keep some attention and some intelligence back in that left knee. Press the left knee down and back. Lift that middle abdominal territory toward the foot. Seek to have the abdomen longer and longer. And then release, walk the hands back close to the leg. And we're going to go back to Baddha Konasana. So bend up your right knee, take your feet back together, back to Baddha Konasana. So the left foot now joins with the right foot. So the top of the left foot is no longer on the floor. The soles of the feet press together. You take your hands out to the sides, press the feet into each other. Tighten from the outer knee to the outer hip. Press down the hands to bring the knees down. Press the feet together strongly. Now keep that outer right knee to outer right hip action as you flatten the top of the right foot onto the floor and use your hands to pull that foot a little closer into the groin. So the right foot to the right groin. And then straighten your left leg out in front of you and take the left foot a few inches out to the left. Not much, but it's not straight up. There should be the angle between your two femur bones should be a little bit more than 90 degrees. So now take your hands to the floor, one hand in front of the right foot, the left hand on the outer left thigh, and turn your chest around the left leg.
just check. You should see your whole sole of your left foot here. The left foot flat, the top of the left foot down on the floor. Press the left knee down and back, tighten from the outer knee to the outer hip, lift the chest up, extend the arms up, and then extend over the left leg. I think I said left a bunch when I meant right just a moment ago. So your right knee to your right hip. Now, take the right hand to the outer left leg, outer left foot, and take your left hand next to the thigh. Press down the left hand, turn the chest around. Go on turning the chest around the left leg. Extend from the left hip through the left side of the body. And now take the hands around the foot. Middle abdominal area extends toward the toes. Continue to extend the right knee back, pulling from the outer right knee back into the right outer hip. And then release the foot, come back up. And you're going to bring the left knee up, both feet back into Baddha Konasana once again. And then release the legs forward to Dandasana. So we're going to move on to our second to last pose. The last pose will, of course, be Shavasana. The second to last pose is Chatushpadasana, four-footed pose. You're going to clear your mat of all of its props, and you're going to lie on your back with your knees bent, your feet flat on the floor. We're going to do this, it's a back bend essentially, just to act as a complement to help release the back if anything. The back works pretty intensely in the forward folds. So now take your feet close to your buttocks. Hold the sides of the sticky mat close to the feet. Eventually you hold the ankles in this pose. We're just going to hold the sticky mat today. Lift your butt a few inches away from the floor and roll the shoulders underneath you so that you come onto the outer arms and the outer shoulders. So you should feel that you pull the lateral head of the deltoid underneath you and get onto that outer shoulder. Press the arms down. And then press down into the feet. Lift the hips up. And now you take your attention to that same area of your torso that we've been working through the whole class, particularly the back side of the torso, from the thoracic, upper lumbar, where the last ribs are, to the shoulder blade area, and press that forward. Press that area forward toward the lungs, forward toward the chest, forward toward the abdomen. Expand the stomach and the abdominal territory. Press the arms down, lift the tailbone up. Hit the middle glutes in, take the tailbone up. Hit the middle glutes in, take the tailbone up. Relax the throat and the face. And then slowly lower the hips down. Extend the legs straight. Release the legs onto the floor, extending them straight. Release the arms out to the sides, turn the palm up. If you require a head support for Shavasana, you can, of course, grab that. It is always nice to use a little bit of support under the head, a little bit of softness. You would know that you would require head support if by lying back on no support, your forehead is lower than your chin. If your chin is high up relative to the forehead, you require some support under the back of the head for the ease of the cervical spine.
And then you rest the arms out to the sides, rest the legs. You've put a lot of attention today in this middle torso area, stomach and middle ribs, or stomach and floating ribs in the front, and at the back from the lumbar to the shoulder blades. And now just soften that territory. Not necessarily attempting to do something with it, but put your attention there and relax. Release the skin of the head down toward the right and left side, respectively, of the head, as if you were drawing a middle line from the middle of the eyebrows down the bridge of the nose and the lips. And everything to the right of that line sinks toward the right ear, and the right ear sinks toward the floor. And everything to the left of that line sinks toward the left ear, and the left ear sinks toward the floor. That includes the jaw. And then the tongue just rests back into the mouth. Everything along that middle line simply softens. So the nostrils soften. The area between the eyebrows and at the middle of the hairline softens back toward the middle of the head, and the scalp rests back toward the back of the head. Remove yourself from any effort, which could be quite a tall order, but still it's shifting from effort and correcting to just observing. From active, engaged consciousness to witness consciousness. And now bend up your knees one at a time. Move very slowly. Push your left foot down to help turn the body to the right. Extend the right arm overhead. Press up with the hands. Keep the head heavy so that it's the last thing to rise up. Come to any seated position. Namaste. May peace be with us all. Om Shanti. So we did a practice today that was largely forward folds. Even in our standing poses, it was largely forward folds. Any of these poses could be held for longer if you'd like to go back and practice this. Again, it was level 2, sequence number 2, especially the inversions. It's
This practice could be held for a very long time, each of these poses, and could very well kind of fit into a more restorative side of the spectrum practice and would well bolster the immune system. So I encourage everyone always to revisit and practice on your own, come to the online classes, and we'll keep you posted for, you know, the potential quarantine lifts in the coming weeks or months. And we hope for like that happening soon, and hope you all stay well and healthy. So thank you all for coming, and have a great